Good morning, guys, and welcome to Unique and Different with me, Shamla. So yesterday, the finance minister presented the 2024 budget, and I am here to talk about how does it impact the disability and vulnerable community? Does it have a positive impact? Do we see a sustainable, impact in terms of education, employment, and so on? So today we are here with Mr. Prakash Ramlakan, who is a lecturer in banking and finance at the University of the West Indies. So good morning, Mr. Ramlakan, and welcome back. And thank you for coming to, share your 2 cents on this budget 2024. How are you doing?
Good morning, Shamala. Thank you for having me. Good morning to your listeners as well. It's great to be here with you to discuss the budget and any other issues relating to financing and the specially able community.
Perfect. So just a kickoff, right? Do you think that the budget was friendly towards the vulnerable and disabled community?
I think the budget was basically indifferent to that segment of the population. I don't think there was anything specifically addressed to the specially abled community. So whatever was addressed in prior budgets continued to be in place, and nothing was taken away, no anything was added. So I assume that community will continue to progress, I hope, in the manner in which they had done. A lot will depend on the community itself to adjust and to make whatever recommendation that they can come up with to advance their, I would say, lifestyle to be fully integrated by being recognized and accepted that their abilities, their capacity would be required as we get everyone on board to restore a number of things, not just the economic prosperity, but secure place for all, safety, equal treatment, all those things still need to be fully addressed. For example, I would say transportation, I know an issue that you always have. And if we are digitizing not only government offices, we also need to digitize other things like libraries. So if the transportation is not efficient and effective, then you should access libraries in your home. So you don't depend so much on special transportation to take you to a special location to access certain services.
Like ebooks and so on.
Yes.
Yeah. So what I read this morning is that, for example, I think based on the overall, it's a more preventative approach and charity approach rather than a sustainable approach. Meaning, for example, they mentioned that mobility and disability, for example, they want to have programs. Good. What about in terms of suicide prevention and mental health and so on? Great. Perfect. Right? But the next thing about it is what about empowering or having an equitable budget for the vulnerable and disability community so they wouldn't even get into this place in the first place. So how in terms of allocation, so let's say education has its allocation, right? Training has its allocation. But do you think that it will have an impact if, let's say, okay, within this round, okay, this budget for education, 20% would go into possibly special ed and doing things that would help children with disabilities so they wouldn't have to grow up, I guess, having to access or having the statistics would be lower. So what is your thought about what I just said?
Yeah, that is very important, Shamala. The cost of prevention, I think, is going to be a lot less than addressing the problem associated with exclusion.
Yeah.
And I think there's need for advocacy on the part of the specially able community. So if you're dealing with education, for instance, that should be built into the budget, not from the minister's perspective, but from the input from the educational institutions. Whether we're dealing with the university, we're dealing with secondary schools or primary schools. And you need to have a voice somewhere in that process to have special ed facilities, whether through training of teachers, presentations or method of presentations, the technology, all those things should be addressed and the resources identified and make representation to the minister through the different ministries or through the different institutions to have these things addressed in subsequent budgets. And not only what you want, but what perhaps may be the cost of not doing it and what are the benefits of doing it. So you're not going to have resources allocated for special ed to prevent societal problems later on, but also to show the expansion in the capacity of the differently abled and the contributions that they can make, not only economically, but also socially. And I think you should also have, through your advocacy group, representation even in the parliament. So
Exactly.
so you have some work to do along those lines. You are doing a fantastic job right here by being live in front of the nation to advance the education and to bring forth the challenges that the especially abled community has been having over the years. And you're doing a fantastic job by contributing meaningfully, like any other citizen, through your knowledge and experience in the banking sector. So you are evidence that this has to be done, but you have to address that we require a different set of resources, teaching approaches, mobility issues, and so forth.
Yeah. So let's go further, right? Because nothing works in silos. Given the state of the economy, the revenue, the expenditure, and so on, right? Do you think that the government is in a place or position financially to really support different segments to expand its full potential? Because we have a lot of gaps in society. So,
Shamala, in terms of the resources, there have been so many comments about wastage. People talk about wastage in so many areas, and contracts, and CPEP, so many ways. I want to look at it slightly different, not in terms of whether the government has the resources, but I think the government has a responsibility to look after everyone. And therefore, you have to allocate the resources so that everyone benefits and no one is left out. So it's better all of us get a piece of the pie rather than one segment get a huge portion of the pie and then another segment is left with little or nothing. So I think the responsibility is there and it should be crystallized. And again, you need to advocate from your side. So it's not just, I would say, a 1 day or 2 days lobbying after the budget, but it has to be a continuous lobbying on the part of the specially able community to remind the decision makers that you are still not addressing our problems. Now, there has been an increase in the minimum wage rate. Perhaps members of the specially able community may benefit, but that wasn't targeted to your community. It was an adjustment that was targeted to the low income community. But you need intervention that is specific to the specially able community so that they can rise to the level of anyone else and have equal opportunity to everything: transport, education, jobs, health, whatever they desire.
Right. And in about a minute and a half, right? What advice would you give, given now that the minister allocated the budget, what advice would you give the different sectors that could help the vulnerable and disabled community given their budget that into a factor? Yeah.
I think a key sector here is going to be education.
Yeah.
Another sector would be social services. And two important areas I think need to be addressed. One is education, and that the public needs to also be educated about the awareness and the needs of the specially abled, not from a perspective of charity, but from a perspective of respect. And the second one is ensuring that there is equal access. As I mentioned before, equal access in education, in the different services, and of course, in the job, from the application to the job process.
Awesome.
So I think that is going to be required, because all they need is recognition, respect, and equal opportunities, and they will find their way in life.
Exactly, just like everybody else. So, Mr. Ramakant,
Certainly.
I want to say thank you so much for always coming post budget and sharing your knowledge with us. You're indeed appreciated. And I know you're in Miami, so I hope you're enjoying. And with that being said, guys, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this week's segment of Unique and Different. As I always say, be good, do good. Bye, guys. Bye.